lunch break.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. I'm Drake Toll alongside JD Piquel, Jack McKenzie, and Marquise Cooley today. Happy Wednesday, everybody. May 12th. Talking Baylor football. You know, men's and women's basketball are still recruiting right now. Possibility of another transfer to join Nikki Collin. Still trying to find out where Bill Brock and Satia Messer are going to go, how that's going to shake out. A lot of ifs, ands, and buts. Things up in the air on that front. Baylor baseball this weekend in Stillwater for a big series. You got Baylor softball going to the Big 12 championships as well. Baylor track at the Big 12 championship meet in Manhattan, the Little Apple. What more could you ask for?
I like that, Manhattan, the Little Apple. That's kind of cool.
You
I like that. I like that a lot. No, I like that. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
I didn't start that. That's not a me thing.
Let's just say you started it.
Really?
Who's going to know?
Everybody.
It's pretty well known.
Yeah.
No one's going to know.
I'm pretty sure they used to say it, have like Herb Street say it in NCAA video games.
No one's going to know.
Yeah.
No one's going to know. It'll be our secret.
Yeah, this is a me thing. I did that. Wow. Thanks,
Drake,
man.
you're so
Little
amazingly
Apple.
smart.
So,
gosh, we're so lucky to have you.
I should start nicknaming some more stuff like the Bears Den or the Blonde Boys Power Hour.
Ooh.
I should start doing that.
That might have legs.
Dude, he's on a roll right
Let's
now.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep, we call it the Bears Den.
I hope we're recording right now.
Oh, shoot. Are we live?
I'm not sure, you know.
Are our mics hot?
I'm not great back here.
Are our mics hot?
Rock and roll.
All right. Today, right now, today is one of the worst days. You know, it has been kind of dreary outside the past couple days.
It has
the
been.
sun's not going to come back out in Waco for another long day. You know, I'm only in studio for another 2 days, and I go home.
Yeah.
It's been.
We'll be remote, though, yeah.
I'm remote for a week. Going to bring out one of those little microphones. That little microphone right there, actually.
There it is.
You see that right there?
Coming with.
I'm taking it with me. Taking it
yeah.
home with me.
Heck yeah.
Should Baylor go to the transfer portal and pick up another offensive lineman going into next season, a la Jake Burton from UCLA? Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah. You think he signed with, I'd be guessing, he signed with some NFL team. Like, dude's a good lineman, and that's nothing against him. He had a lot of starts at UCLA, came to Baylor because the Pac-12 wasn't going to play football.
Right.
But, like, that experiment didn't really work out.
Yeah, I don't remember really hearing much about Jake Burton.
Jake Burton, I mean, the whole offensive line, I think that's kind of the thing. That's why I personally say no to this. I think it's tough at this point with no spring ball to bring in a guy to play at a position that is ultimately very much dependent on the other four guys. And it's so hard to get the continuity in fall camp. You really need the spring to be able to get that cohesiveness. And I understand that maybe they don't have 5 stars across the board on the offensive line.
They don't have 2 stars across the board.
Xavier Newman was pretty good coming out of high school. I think he was under All-American. I'm going to say his name wrong. The young freshman, Makuza, he was, I think, flipped from Michigan. So they got guys that can play. But the thing is, nobody knows that because they looked abysmal a season ago because they didn't play well together.
They looked abysmal in the spring game.
Abysmal. Well, they also had Apu Ika lining up across from him, and they're putting in a new scheme.
But he didn't line up against the ones. Apu didn't line up against the ones not the whole time. He did some. You're right.
Miller's the number 1 freshman.
You're right.
Or the number 1 center, excuse me.
Yep.
So he was playing both ways.
Great point. I absolutely, you got to get a lineman out of the portal. These guys, the line right now is the one thing that Baylor athletics is so bad at. The one thing that Baylor is not good at right now is blocking. Like, they're good at tennis. Baylor's good at track, at golf, at cross country. Baylor is bad at offensive line. You gotta fix it. You need a now fix in a guy. Maybe bring a guy in that has 1 year left of eligibility. But if you can bring in a 2 or 3 year fix of experience, you need experience at a high level. Experience of a guy that's like, hey, not only have I played college football, but I have good experience of I played it well. And so few linemen currently on roster have that.
So we just described right there a guy who's played a lot of football, played it well. That effectively is Jake Burton. Like, Jake Burton did that a season ago, and he'd be walking into a guy with he'd be walking into a team that would have no spring ball. So he's watching tape, trying to get up to speed, like we saw a season ago with no COVID. Spring ball is what we saw basically. So the guy's pretty much drinking from a fire hose the whole season. He never was able to really get up to speed from what I was able to see. So I think, like, yeah, the idea of it is really attractive. It's attractive to think, like, okay, get a guy from a Power 5 school. I don't even know who you'd be after at this point, but I think you're setting them up for failure without spring ball. Right now, I think you got to roll with what you got. It's hard to install during the fall. I mean, I can speak from experience being a graduate transfer and showing up at Baylor. My head was spinning, and I'd played a lot of college football. My head, I was not picking up the playbook at all before I had to leave the team. It's tough to walk in because everybody's already been together for so long, and the coaches don't care.
But the playbook's much easier for an offensive lineman than it is a running back, no?
No, not really.
Not at all?
Not really.
Come on.
I've never played O-line, so I'm speaking out of turn, but there are so many checks that you're dependent on your guard or your tackle or your center. There's so much communication happens before the snap. So where it's hard to, like, if you're not on the same page before the snap, one guy out of the 5 is off, it's a sack.
Yeah, but
That's
you're running,
tough.
If I'm running 36 trap, if I say 36 trap to an offensive lineman, you should automatically know what we're doing.
Well, what's the defense? We got a
Not
nose, we got a
necessarily.
shade.
Yeah, like
We got
linebackers.
what's set. They just
like-
they just shifted the play changes.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like, okay, well, 36 trap just became 24 counter Y.
Yeah, you can tell what back, what hold,
And
hit,
that
but you're not-
changes everything.
That doesn't really tell the lineman how to
Block?
block the guys in front of them.
I mean, in my experience playing on the line, it did. You say 36 trap, that I know if I'm the left tackle, I know exactly which way I'm blocking and who the next guy down I need to block is.
Defense comes out to give
You
you
must have
different
known your
look.
playbook
Safety's
through and
creeped
through
up.
against
Safety's
every
creeped up.
front.
Literally, I mean, yeah, it's football.
It is football,
It's the
but
same football at Baylor as it is at Louisiana Tech.
it's like saying school in first grade is still school your senior year of college. The courses are just very different. So like the safeties, if you're gonna, like, for example, 36 trap, all of a sudden that backer mugs, meaning he comes up and walks up on the center. So you got him sitting right where that's gonna try to run 36 trap. You can no longer run 36 trap. So a good quarterback, a good center will be like, okay, check, and you get out of the play.
Okay.
So at that point, there's so much communication that goes on to where it's like, okay, 36 trap, you know how to block it, but we just switched the play 3 times before the snap, and you now have no idea what you're doing at left tackle. That's a sack, and we can't even get the play started. And that's a risk you run. I really think it's risky.
I don't think you have to be an elite lineman to be able to adjust with the numbers or adjust with the play call in comparison to a halfback or in a position in your position. I'm saying I don't think that's going to be an issue bringing a guy in. It's like, yeah, you didn't get spring ball, so if I call out a play, you're going to be lost. I mean, is that really going to be a legitimate issue for a good lineman?
I think
How did Xavier
it's
Newman
risky.
look last year?
I think it's risky.
Who?
Xavier Newman.
What did I say?
He looked lost, and he
hasn't
been here.
He hasn't proven.
for
Okay,
years.
what did I say? Also, it's a new offensive coordinator last year. But Xavier Newman has not proven to me that he's an elite lineman.
New offense coordinator this year.
New offensive coordinator
saying,
this year.
We're not going to get
offensive line coach.
Right, ye of little faith. Like, I have so much faith in Eric Mateos that if a transfer comes in, those guys will be ready. What I'm saying is, if you're a lineman that's got it, if you're an elite level lineman in the transfer portal, or even a pretty good lineman in the transfer portal, you should be ready to rock and roll in the fall. Is that too much to ask?
Yes and
Maybe
no.
at Baylor.
Yes and no. I think there's a piece of it to where you can understand the X's and O's on paper and have it down pat. Like, this was a problem for me my junior season. I knew the playbook. I knew it forwards and backwards. Got on a whiteboard, know how to try it up. I know how to draw it up, know how to chalk it up. Get on the field, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's a pretty simple route concept that I'm supposed to be running. I have no idea what to do because it's very different to know it in the classroom and then to get out onto the football field and try and execute. So my concern with bringing someone in is that they wouldn't be able to have enough reps in 11-on-11 scenarios to get up to speed. I think you have, I'd be guessing if I said how many practices you have. You have probably, I'd say, around a month to get acclimated when you get on campus, because you have like the summer 1, summer 2, so you get strong, you get to know your teammates, but the communication level that it requires to be a good offensive lineman makes me nervous, and I think that the risk there is too great. Just keep the guys you got. Let's gel. Like, I would rather have a 3-star lineman than a 5-star lineman who's been here longer.
Wow, really?
That's
I
a
would
bold
rather
take.
have
That's where I
have
go.
an elite lineman out of the transfer portal than somebody here that you can't trust.
What if the 5-star lineman is not even blocking the right guy? He's doing pass pro.
Why
and
do
got
you
inside
assume
zone.
that? Why do you assume that? It's the same whether it be at Baylor. Okay, say that. Repeat that one more time.
I would rather have a 3-star lineman with less ability,
Okay.
who's been around for the spring, has played with this group, knows the checks, knows the calls. I can put him in the game. He might not physically dominate whoever's in front of him, but he knows what to do. He can get in the way. He can do enough to get the play started. Whereas with a 5-star, if he's blocking the wrong guy, I'm like, dude, you're Hercules, but you're blocking the exact wrong guy, and we can't even get the play started. That's where my issue falls.
It's blocking. It's being a lineman. On a scale of 1 to complicated, it's not near as bad as it could be for, say, a linebacker, a DB, a quarterback, a running back. I mean,
I
we've
don't know
got
about running back.
what?
JD, fill us in.
There's parts that I see what you're saying.
I would say running back's much more complicated than being a lineman when it comes to knowing the playbook.
The thing is that they all go together, right? Like, I think there's parts of running back that's obviously different than the lineman, but my thing is communication. Like, I keep going back to that. Being able to pick up the checks within a half second of the snap can make all the difference in the world. And so for even a guy to be a half second behind, we're dealing with a sack. And I think we saw that with Jake Burton this year, a guy who is a very good football player, is going to make some money playing in the NFL. He's a beast. He played 20-plus games at UCLA. The guy was consistent. But the fact that he came to Baylor with no spring ball, wasn't able to get up to speed ever really fully, we saw that hurt him, and ultimately this offensive line had other problems that you can't put on Jake Burton. But I think we saw that be a more difficult learning curve than it would be if he had been here for spring ball.
We've seen Mateos in the classroom. We've seen Mateos do those videos on YouTube where he breaks down the offense, and I have full trust and faith in Eric Mateos that if you bring a transfer in, the guy's going to know how to block, and they're going to build something around him that makes you comfortable as a lineman in the offense. Because you have to have, it's not even a mind. I know we keep talking about mind game consistency, how well you get it up here. I want to go back to just physicality and pure ability as an offensive lineman, and Baylor doesn't have that on the O-line. You need someone, a new player, maybe two, with the ability to play at a Big 12 level on the offensive line, because Baylor has, we talked about it, maybe two guys that I trust on the O-line. Grant Miller being a guy who just transferred in. I don't know what you're going to get from him. I've seen his film with Vanderbilt. I saw Jake Burton's film at UCLA. Who is to say that Grant Miller won't end up just like Jake Burton?
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point, I think. But Grant Miller getting spring ball is the difference. Jake Burton showed up here, and it's like, hey, I'm trying to figure out the playbook. I'm trying to play a lot of different positions right now and trying to be an asset, because he was a good football player. But the reality of it was, he was basically thrown into a scheme that he was, I'm assuming, still trying to pick up. And there were times last year where that kind of reared its ugly head, and we're like, okay, you're a great football player, but you don't know necessarily who to block. Like DeAndre Hopkins is still DeAndre Hopkins, no matter what route he's running, but it's hard when he's not running the right route with the concept. That's kind of a stretch, but you see what I'm saying. It all works so cohesively that if one guy doesn't do his job, being the guy who doesn't know exactly what he's supposed to be doing, you're in trouble as an offensive line. It makes everyone look bad.
I think you're completely right, but at the same time, to kind of side with Drake a little here, I mean, we got to figure something out. So bringing in more options, trying to find one that sticks, one that can do it, especially if they have experience in this zone type running scheme that Eric Mateos and Grimes are running, that could be good, especially if they have multiple years, because who knows how these 3-stars we have in the 2022 class are going to pan out. Like, hopefully they do, but
that's true. My exception to that would be if you got a guy from BYU. I have no idea what their transfer portal looks like. If you get a kid from BYU who can play, who knows the system, who knows what he's stepping into, day one, he's ready to rock, I think that learning curve is a lot less steep than someone who, from UCLA, from Virginia Tech, someone who's going to show up and be like, okay, well, I'm glad I'm here. I can play ball, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. That's really tough.
Got a call on the line here. We got Jason in Fort Worth. Jason calling in to talk about the offensive line. What's going on, Jason?
Hey, man, you enjoying the show today? You guys look nice there, coordinated in your Baylor gear today.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
I hear both sides of the argument here. I definitely think, and I thought I heard Coach Aranda say this earlier. He was talking about we need additional offensive linemen just for a depth reason. I mean, we're only as good as, our starting five, if somebody goes down, what do we do? So I don't think it can hurt. And I definitely think, I think back to the Oklahoma game. And I know you mentioned this I heard your argument for why we're going to win the Big 12 championship next year. It's a possibility. I think back to that Oklahoma game. I think we got an interception on the 2-yard line. We're still in the ball game, and we need to make 1 yard. And it was, I think that I remember that sequence of plays where our offensive line could do absolutely nothing. And, it's not rocket science there. And I remember that, and I just think, whether it be lack of continuity, strength training, not having an off season, at that point, it's just man to man, and it's man up and get a yard, and we couldn't do it. And I think that was the most demoralizing series that we had all last year. Well, there was probably many in the two-win season, but
sure,
that's kind of where I am. What do you think about that?
I see what you're saying, and I agree with that. I think Baylor probably still is trying to take that next step in terms of physicality. Like Drake and I both talked about that, how there needs to be sort of an attitude change, it feels like. Now, whether that's the case or not, maybe we're way off base. We're not in that locker room, but that's the way it feels, is they didn't really have that edge to them, and maybe you lose that with the COVID season. But I do agree. I think for depth, that would be really awesome. I think it'd be great to have some guys in to potentially be someone to step up if someone went down, God forbid. But I really just think it's so hard to walk in to a Division I offensive line without spring ball and know how to be competent in terms of what you're supposed to do from a schematic standpoint. Like that's really asking a lot from me. Now, I agree. I think they will be more physical this year. I think the strength coach and the new offensive line coach with the coach Valoria Mateos, that's going to be a big improvement, I think. I think we saw it in the spring game, too. We saw at least they looked bigger. Physicality is something you develop. And again, maybe I'm speaking off base there, not in that locker room, but that's the way it feels. Is it'd be tough to walk in day one and be able to contribute how you would want someone to contribute on your offensive line.
And I also think, it's the production of our offensive line is probably going to determine the starting quarterback. I mean, you have more of a pocket passer in Zeno versus, somebody who can run. And, my 2 cents is if we don't have an offensive line that can block, you're probably looking at Bohannon as a starter. And I'm not advocating for either one, but and I hate to say this, I worry about a TCU game next year because TCU is going to have a stout defense this year. I'm up in Fort Worth and I've seen them play, and they are tough. And it's not a given. If you can't, that offensive line is really the domino effect for a lot of things on the team next year. I have confidence they're going to do better, but that's it. But man, you guys are fantastic, and love the new segment. I watched it this morning, JD, so good job.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Jason? Jason?
Yes, sir.
There you are. Bear Games question of the day. Jason, your most immaculate, your greatest, your favorite, the best individual performance you've ever had in sports. What was it?
Oh, my gosh. My team has a little blip in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. The Crum Bobcats, north of Denton, Texas.
Wow.
Back before we even had football. We had, I can't even remember, it was hundreds of district victories in a row, set the state record. I was on one of those teams. Dude, we used to have to run lines. Our coach would make us run lines when we were for any point scored over 30 by the opposing district, team. Because I remember we beat. I had a chance to go see Michael Jordan sit courtside one night on homecoming night, and I wanted to miss the game just to go see Jordan play against the Mavericks. But stayed, obviously played the game. We won 119-24 against Paradise. I scored 30 points. So there's my old man story right there. I think that was probably my greatest individual performance in my life. But other than maybe beating J.J. Joe and the football team in the murals back at Mars McLean back in the day. So that was also quite epic. So
MJ should have come and seen you.
So.
MJ should have come and seen you courtside.
Say that again?
Said MJ was missing out, man. He should have come and watched you courtside drop 30.
Exactly. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I could have seen, I don't even know who it was back then. I mean, James Donaldson, Mark Aguirre, Michael Jordan. What a matchup. I mean, I don't know. But
wow. Well, Jason,
anyway,
thanks for your call, man.
That's all I got for today, boys. And I'm so grateful to answer my first Bear Games question. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, we will. Thanks for your call again, Jason. We got the